The $100 million war chest that could fund America's scariest sequel. He holds court and still says the election was stolen. Just when you thought you'd seen the back of Donald Trump, he's raised a fortune in a bid to retake the White House, writes Tom Leonard. He spends his days on the golf course and his nights in his palace, the gilded rococo splendor of his Florida country club home, Mar-a-Lago. Donald Trump may be ruler of a much diminished empire these days, but he still behaves like royalty. He'll often be found in his throne room, Mar-a-Lago's ornate grand lobby. There, dressed in his obligatory dark suit and tie, and his face caked in his famous bronze makeup, Trump sits on a low armchair in the middle of the room. And as his courtiers, a court heavy on buxom blondes, it must be said, mill around admiringly under a gold leaf ceiling decorated with winged griffins, he receives important visitors or talks loudly on the phone. Many have come from Washington, Republicans desperate to guarantee his support before next year's crucial midterm congressional elections. The ex-president is reveling in his new role as kingmaker. Lucky visitors may be given a bound copy of 1,000 Accomplishments of President Donald J. Trump, highlights of the first term, which comes in at 92 pages long. Trump usually dines in the adjoining patio restaurant, a phoning audience of aides, fans and club members standing to applaud when he walks in. And if ever they are bored, as he harps on for hours at a time about how voter fraud robbed him of the 2020 election, the greatest fraud ever perpetuated in this country, they do their best to conceal it. If his wife and former First Lady, Melania, is in residence, they eat at a roped-off table in the center of the restaurant, looked at like zoo animals, according to Trump watcher, author and journalist Michael Wolff. Now, as high summer makes life in Palm Beach unbearably hot and sticky, the zoo has temporarily moved north to New Jersey, where it's installed at the Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, another of his myriad super-smart golf resorts, close to New York. Aides portray Trump as insanely busy as he plots a glorious political comeback, even going so far as to choose his running mate in a 2024 presidential election that will return him to his rightful place in the White House. Just days ago, his former chief of staff Mark Meadows described Trump as fully engaged, highly focused and remaining on task, adding that his cabinet members wouldn't be holding meetings with him if we weren't making plans to move forward in a real way with President Trump at the head of that ticket. Nobody has ever described a man said to have the attention span of a goldfish as highly focused or fully engaged on anything, except perhaps his golf drives. So has someone caught a little too much of the Florida sun? Will there ever be a comeback? After all, most people must have thought they'd heard the last of the Donald, at least politically, after he slunk out of the White House on January 20, hours before his successor Joe Biden was inaugurated and 2 weeks after his supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol with his encouragement. The man who's been impeached twice for abusing his power headed off to Florida and the estate he dubbed the Winter White House in ignominy, a handful of supporters forlornly lining the route clutching messages of support. And yet, once again, Trump seems to be defying expectations. Last week, it was reported that the former president has already amassed a $102 million, £73 million, war chest thanks to donations from supporters great and small, who answered his strident online demands to help him expose the vote rigging and save democracy. Money is all in U.S. politics and Trump has reportedly raised more of it than any other Republican. His closest rival, Tim Scott of South Carolina, the only black Republican in the U.S. Senate, has raised less than $8 million. Republican Party sources outside Trump's circle suspect a lot of this talk about election planning is hot air and scoff at the idea that he has a cabinet. They say party elders would privately prefer Trump to simply go away and that his continued influence only helps Democrats by allowing them to tar any Republican associated with the divisive Trump. But they can see that the Trump name works wonders in revving up rank-and-file supporters and activists, few of whom have shown much sign of deserting him even after the attack on the Capitol. Trump remains the party's biggest money spinner and insiders say Republican bosses have convinced themselves they simply cannot survive financially without him. political funding in the US is far more opaque than in the UK, but it's clear much of Trump's war chest comes from small contributions. Supporters are being flooded with online offers to buy not only the predictable Trump-branded drinking glasses, t-shirts and $45 sign pictures, but Trump Life membership. Minimum donations start at $5, and, unveiled last week, the Trump card, a credit card-style, blood-red ID card with his signature and gold lettering and an angry-looking eagle that critics have likened to Nazi insignia. Trump says he wants every patriot to carry one. Meanwhile, the mega-donors are throwing in millions. A shadowy cabal is reportedly funding an audit of the 2020 vote in a senior state official to find votes to overturn the Democrat victory there. So, when Trump isn't spending his time discussing election strategy with his cabinet, how is he filling his empty days? Liz Meyer says her sources close to him in Mar-a-Lago spend a lot of time meeting with him, hanging out at the club and playing golf. In the mornings, he indulges another passion, watching TV news. He has always enjoyed hours on the phone gossiping to friends, staying abreast of Washington developments via chats with his contacts at Fox News and other conservative media outlets. If they're particularly important, he's been known to put them on speakerphone so everyone at Mar-a-Lago can listen and admire. Trump, of course, used to be prolific on Twitter but has been suspended permanently from the social media site on the grounds he may incite violence. He's yet to find a satisfactory alternative.